The New York Times is reporting that Trump is about to go nuts with military spending. They say President Trump will instruct federal agencies on Monday to assemble a budget for the coming fiscal year that includes sharp increases in Defense Department spending and drastic enough cuts to domestic agencies that he can keep his promise to leave Social Security and Medicare alone. Okay, so the only good news out of that is apparently he's actually trying to keep Social Security and Medicare as is. Now, he's appointed people at the Social Security Administration that are people of concern because they're across the board for privatization. So his picks have been a disaster, but apparently the news is behind the scenes from 4 different top administration officials that he's trying to leave those alone and actually stick by that promise. But he at the same time wants to sharply increase, that's their word, not mine, sharply increase defense spending, which in our case, let's be honest, is just offense spending. And in order to do that, virtually every other program, every domestic program, you got to cut it to the bone, man. So all the spending for the agencies, anti-poverty programs, you name it. EPA, of course, is on the chopping block. At first, we thought the trick he was going to do was the old Republican trick. Okay, put Scott Pruitt as the head of the EPA, who doesn't believe in the EPA, and he sued them 14 times. Turns out, no, he's not just doing the trick where you appoint somebody who doesn't believe in the agency. He's also just flat out going to cut it, just going to cut the budget to the bone. And watch, he'll do the same thing with all these anti-poverty programs. Another article that was out the other day was Betsy DeVos when it comes to the free lunch program for schools. Cutting that massively. By the way, think about that. What kind of person says, oh, free and reduced lunch programs for poor people? Yeah, that's a priority to cut. That's like the last thing I would ever cut. Food for poor kids who need it, who need the, either the free or the reduced cost lunch. I mean, these people are sick, man. They really are. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this chart here because this chart shows you what world military spending is like right now. So you have the U.S. We spend 36% of all military spending worldwide. Think about that number. Sweet Jesus, that's almost half. 36% of all military spending in the world is the United States. The closest one to us is China, with 13%. I mean, even if they doubled what they spend, it still wouldn't match us. Isn't that crazy? And then you have Saudi Arabia with 5.2%. By the way, we totally fund and prop up them. So, that's basically, you could just put that on the U.S. Taxpayers' bill because we're the ones who are paying for it. Russia, big bad Russia. Only 4% of worldwide military spending. The UK, 3.3%. India, 3.1%. And you go down the list there. It gets more and more obscure as you go down the list there in terms of the percentage of the spending. I mean, guys, this is just... we've discussed it before. We've showed the other charts. When you look at discretionary spending, the United States, it's over 50% of our discretionary budget goes to the military. So our welfare in this country is warfare. And what we do is, it's actually brilliant by the elite and the military-industrial complex in the strategy they use. It's very clever. What they did is they set up shop in all 50 states. So there's something made for the military in every single state, whether it's, the bulletproof vests in one state, or it's helicopters in another state, or it's fighter jets in another, the weapons in another, the ammunition in another. And what happens is it's all tied to jobs programs. So you have the politicians taking money from the defense contractors. Then, of course, the politicians turn around and do favors for the people who just gave them the money. And the favor is, okay, you get a contract to build more tanks, for example, and it gets to the point where they keep building tanks and we simply don't need tanks anymore. In the Nevada desert, there's tanks just sitting there collecting dust because it's not about, they're not creating it based on need. It's a vital part of the economy. Military spending, again, our warfare spending is our welfare in this country. So many jobs are tied to it that there would actually be an uproar if we were to cut the military spending, for example, in half, which would still make us, the biggest spender by far. But there would be an outcry because a lot of people would lose their jobs. So we have to move away. This is what the military-industrial complex is. You make war a business. You make it very profitable. And then you have a surplus of all these weapons and stuff sitting around, and then therein lies the other aspect of it. Then we sell it. We turn around and sell it to Egypt, who uses the weapons to crack down on peaceful protesters. We use it to sell to Israel, and we give to Israel because, of course, we give them $38 billion over the next 10 years, most of that military spending, military aid. And what they do is they use it to continue occupation and apartheid. And, of course, Netanyahu does his bomb fest in Gaza every few years, where he cuts the grass and kills massive numbers of civilians. We give it to Saudi Arabia, who's slaughtering civilians in Yemen right now. So this is what we do. We fund worldwide conflicts. We, of course, engage ourselves in crazy conflicts. We're involved in 7 different nations, doing 7 different interventions right now, 2 different full-scale wars. And as all this goes on, the politicians gleefully, even under the Democrats, the trick is under the Democrats, you keep it as is. You don't dismantle the empire, but you talk like, oh, yes, we need to do something about this out-of-control military spending and war situation. And then you just coast. You keep it about the same. Maybe the tiniest little cuts. And then the Republicans come in like Trump and he goes, let's sharply increase that. So under Democrats, you keep it the same. Under Republicans, you increase it, which means what? In the long term, all you're going to see is steady increases in military spending, even though we already spend 36% of the world military budget, and we spend over 50% of our own discretionary budget on it. All that while we don't get clean water in Flint, Michigan, and our infrastructure gets a grade of D, according to the Society of Civil Engineers. It's sick, man. We need a drastic realignment of our priorities. Yes, you have to get rid of those military jobs and give those people other jobs. We have an entire economic boom just waiting for us on the renewable energy front. We could do a New Deal where we rebuild all of our infrastructure. The idea that, you can't replace these shitty jobs. If I paid you every day to go to my front lawn and cut the grass with toenail clippers, you'd say, well, look, I'm getting paid. I need this job because it's the money. But you're doing a job that's effectively useless. Well, same thing. If you're building, weapons of death, well, that's not only is that useless, it's actually worse than that because it's immoral and unethical because the weapons are being used to kill innocent people all over the world, and we're fueling conflicts and we're fueling genocidal maniacs in some circumstances. So that's not a good job. We can get rid of that and give you a different job, a job that actually makes sense. Just like with the cutting my grass with toenail clippers. It's not intelligent. It might be as it is right now. It might be the current state of affairs, but we got to switch it up. We got to change it. We can't sit around anymore. And of course, Trump has decided to face the car in the wrong direction and put the pedal to the metal as he pretends like he's for the people. It's a sick joke, man, and everybody should speak up against it. But no, I warned you guys from the beginning, and now it's coming through and it's happening. But I told you that you're going to have the neocons and you're going to have the establishment Republicans. Eventually, they're all going to come around and say, you know what, I like Trump. Why? Because of shit like this. This is exactly what Mitt Romney would do. This is exactly what John McCain would do. This is exactly what Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush or any of the establishment Republicans would do. Mitt Romney said the other day, hey, I was so-so on this Trump guy, but he's off to a strong start. Why did he say that? Because he was looking at Trump's picks. A guy like that loves Betsy DeVos for education secretary, a Christian fundamentalist, a religious lunatic who's an oligarch who bought her position and wants to privatize the public schools. That's exactly what Mitt Romney wants. He looks at Jeff Sessions for attorney general. He goes, great, far-right crazy person who thinks marijuana is evil. Wonderful. I love that. I would make a similar pick. This is how Mitt Romney thinks. This is how all these people think. So they're going to turn around and genuflect at the altar of power, and especially when Trump start doing all the crazy shit that they said they want to do, and they want to do, now they all like him. So Trump campaigned in a more populist direction, but he's governing as an establishment Republican because he's the bitch of the elite. Never forget it.